Ladies and gentlemen, let us first understand that there is a great misunderstanding that has been woven into the very fabric of our society, the belief that hard work alone brings wealth. The world teaches us that the longer we labor, the more money we shall earn. But this is an illusion, a subtle snare that keeps countless souls in a state of poverty and limitation. Hard work, when it is not guided by the intelligent use of forces beyond mere effort, binds a person to the treadmill of struggle. It does not liberate, it imprisons. The universe responds not to frantic toil, but to the clear, unwavering alignment of thought and purpose. When you labor without understanding the flow of power, when you exhaust yourself in endless activity with no vision, you drain your energy and weaken your magnetic attraction to abundance. The mind that is constantly occupied with worry, with struggling to survive, cannot receive the miracles of prosperity. Hard work alone is like pounding on a door that the universe has not opened for you. It expends energy but yields no fruit. Notice how the greatest fortunes of the world are seldom the result of sheer labor. They are the result of intelligent action, inspired ideas, and the conscious use of the invisible forces that move wealth and influence. There is a spiritual law at work, a law that operates whether you believe it or not. It is the law of subconscious attraction. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your inner attitude determine your outer results. When you believe that only relentless effort can bring income, you are placing yourself under a limitation. You are affirming struggle, and struggle multiplies. Many honest souls toil day and night, yet remain poor because they have surrendered their power to external conditions. They see themselves as victims of circumstance, bound to a boss, a system, a world that is unfair. This is why working harder often deepens poverty, rather than alleviating it. The mind that is enslaved to effort alone cannot see opportunities, cannot attract partnerships, cannot harness the invisible currents of abundance. Powerlessness comes when you confuse activity with achievement, when you mistake motion for momentum. True wealth and power come to those who understand the secret. It is not the hands that create, but the mind. The one who holds the vision, who commands the invisible forces with faith and clarity, moves mountains without strain. When you align your inner consciousness with abundance, when you affirm that wealth and power are your natural right, the universe responds. Doors open, opportunities appear, and labor is replaced by inspired action. Effort becomes effortless, and results multiply beyond the measure of mere work. Consider the law of supply. The world is full of riches, but these riches do not flow to those who simply grind for them. They flow to those who know how to receive, how to magnetize their circumstances. To work hard without understanding this law is to swim against a powerful current. You expend energy, but the river of prosperity passes you by. Powerless people cling to the old notion, I must sweat, I must sacrifice, I must prove my worth with effort. Meanwhile, the wise step aside from the frenzy, speak the word of faith, and let the currents of opportunity carry them. It is also essential to recognize the spiritual dimension of wealth. Every act of hard work must be accompanied by conscious thought, by a heart that is aligned with abundance, by a mind that envisions victory. Without this, work becomes a drain on the soul, a source of fatigue and limitation. Many find themselves trapped in cycles of effort, never seeing the fruit of their labor because their subconscious mind believes in lack, fear, and limitation. The outer world merely reflects what is held within. You must learn to master your mind, to govern your thoughts, and to understand that effort alone does not command results. Imagine a seed planted in barren soil. No matter how much you water and tend it, it cannot flourish. But when the soil is rich, when the conditions are right, even the smallest effort yields a harvest beyond expectation. The same is true for your life. Align yourself with the fertile soil of intelligent thought, with the currents of divine law, and even small inspired actions bring abundance. Therefore, I urge you to release the false notion that working harder is the path to wealth. Release the exhaustion, the endless struggle, the belief that sweat alone can earn you power. Claim instead the truth that your mind is the great generator of prosperity, that faith and understanding attract the currents of success. Stop pounding at the doors that remain closed, and step into the flow that opens every gate. The path to freedom, to power, to wealth, is not in the sweat of the brow, but in the mastery of the mind. The universe loves those who act with clarity, who think in terms of abundance, who trust that the supply is infinite. When you awaken to this truth, hard work becomes unnecessary. You move with precision, not strain. You attract, not chase. You command, not plead. And in this shift, poverty dissolves, power returns to you, and life becomes the abundant expression it was always meant to be. Hard work, as it has been taught to us since childhood, is often mistaken for the path to prosperity. Yet this notion is one of the most persistent illusions that keeps the masses bound to limitation. The world tells you that effort, sweat, and sacrifice are the currency of success, and so many noble souls spend their lives laboring endlessly, believing that the longer they work, the greater their reward will be. They rise early, toil late, and fill their days with ceaseless activity, yet the fruits of their labor remain meager. The universe operates on principles far subtler and infinitely more intelligent than mere motion or effort. Labor alone cannot create wealth, and constant activity without inner alignment is like a ship tossed in a storm without a rudder. It moves, but it does not advance toward its destination. Many individuals have become slaves to this misconception, believing that the sheer volume of work equates to value and worthiness, yet all it often brings is exhaustion, stress, and a perpetuation of scarcity. They work harder than anyone else, yet the world remains indifferent to their struggle, for the law of the universe is not concerned with how hard one pushes, but with the state of mind one maintains. There is a higher intelligence that governs supply and opportunity, and it responds to harmony, clarity, and the magnetic quality of thought. When one labors blindly, when effort is unaccompanied by vision and conscious understanding, it is like sowing seeds on rocky ground. They may sprout, but they cannot flourish. The energy expended in endless striving without alignment becomes a drain rather than a source, and the very force that could attract abundance is instead dissipated in futile activity. This is why so many who are diligent, disciplined, and tireless in their work remain poor. They confuse motion with momentum, activity with advancement, and energy with power. They are busy, yet they are not productive in the highest sense. They are moving, yet they are not magnetizing. The world rewards not the amount of effort, but the intelligent application of inspired action. Every individual carries within them the ability to draw from infinite supply, yet this ability is dormant in those who operate from the false notion that effort alone determines results. To work hard, while ignoring the laws of thought, is to labor in a vacuum. Energy is spent, time is consumed, yet results are minimal and frustration grows. Consider the individ. You all, who spends endless hours at a desk, doing tasks that occupy the body but not the imagination, who reacts to circumstances rather than creates them. Such a person may feel productive, may see a flurry of activity in their day, yet they remain powerless because they have not learned the secret of mental alignment. The secret is that the mind is the great magnet. The thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes one holds are the forces that summon conditions, circumstances, and opportunities. Without conscious thought, without clear vision, without the steady application of faith in abundance, labor produces little more than fatigue and limitation. Many have wondered why they work tirelessly, yet wealth eludes them, why they follow every instruction, obey every rule, and yet remain in the cycle of scarcity. The answer is simple, yet profound. They have mistaken effort for law. They believe that the universe operates like a machine that rewards work hours and diligence, but the universe operates as a living, intelligent presence that responds to consciousness. Consider how effortless some achieve wealth and influence, while others toil endlessly. It is not because one is smarter or luckier, but because the one who achieves knows the law of attraction and acts in alignment with it. They do not exhaust themselves with meaningless activity. They direct their energy with purpose, envision their results clearly, and maintain an inner state that is receptive to opportunity. The hard worker, on the other hand, often operates from a place of fear or scarcity. They believe that they must do everything themselves, that struggle proves their worth, that the grind is evidence of virtue. Such beliefs bind them, For the law of supply does not respond to fear, struggle, or exhaustion. It responds to faith, clarity, and expectation. Every effort expended from the place of limitation only reinforces limitation. Every hour spent in frantic activity without vision deepens the habit of struggle and attracts circumstances that reflect it. The universe mirrors the inner state of the individual. Therefore, the relentless worker, no matter how honest or conscientious, may continue to toil without seeing results if their thoughts are mired in scarcity. Energy, when not directed by conscious intention, disperses into the atmosphere, becoming wasted power. In contrast, the person who understands that work must be guided by vision, that effort is secondary to consciousness, experiences a flow where even minimal action brings multiplied results. To grasp this truth is to recognize that labor alone is not the path to prosperity. One may work long hours, yet without understanding the principles that govern the flow of supply, the results will always be less than the potential. The mind must be trained to see the invisible patterns of opportunity, the currents of abundance that exist beyond the immediate realm of physical action. When a person begins to think in terms of alignment rather than an effort, their entire approach transforms. They no longer exhaust themselves with activity that yields little. They engage in inspired action, a few well-directed efforts that carry the weight of intelligence, faith, and expectation. Such efforts create leverage, the force multiplier that the ordinary hard worker never experiences. To labor without this understanding is to remain chained to mediocrity, no matter how tirelessly one works. Those who remain bound to the belief that only sweat and sacrifice bring reward will continue to encounter obstacles, delays, and disappointments. It is a subtle trap, for society glorifies struggle and persistence without discernment, presenting it as the moral and natural path. Yet this path leads to fatigue, frustration, and a sense of powerlessness. To rise above, one must shift perception. One must realize that the universe is abundant, that supply is infinite, and that every person is a magnet to conditions that correspond to their inner state. Working hard without this recognition is like attempting to fill a cup that has a hole at the bottom. The effort is wasted, the energy disappears, and the individual continues to thirst. True success, true power, and true wealth come not from grinding endlessly, but from directing energy intelligently. One must cultivate a mind that is clear, expectant, and receptive. One must envision the results desired and trust that the invisible forces will bring them into manifestation. Labor, when guided by understanding and aligned thought, becomes effortless. Effort alone, however, is a trap, for it keeps the individual in a state of tension and struggle, attracting only more struggle in response. Many feel guilty for resting, for pausing, for allowing their mind to work in harmony rather than their body in exhaustion. Yet it is in the stillness of thought, in the clear intention of the mind, that the seeds of abundance are sown. Therefore, recognize that hard work, as conventionally understood, is not the path to prosperity. It may occupy your time, it may consume your energy, it may even give the appearance of productivity, yet without the conscious application of mental law, it cannot create the wealth, influence, or power that is your divine right. The secret lies not in the length of the day, but in the alignment of the inner self with the intelligent forces of the universe. Labor is necessary only to the extent that it expresses inspired thought, and even the smallest inspired effort, when magnified by faith and clarity, brings results far beyond the reach of ceaseless toil. Power is not a matter of external circumstance. It is not derived from titles, positions, or even wealth itself. True power is the natural state of the individual who has mastered the mind, who understands that the source of influence, authority, and success resides within, not in the outer world. Yet so many remain powerless, not because they lack opportunity, but because they have surrendered the inner dominion to fear, doubt, and external conditions. They imagine that compliance, effort, and obedience to circumstance will bring security, yet the law of mind is absolute. Your outer life can never rise above the inner dominion you claim. Those who rely solely on effort, skill, or circumstance are like travelers who build their house on sand. The winds of competition, the tides of change, and the shifting sands of circumstance may sweep them away at any moment, for they have no anchor in the unchanging source within themselves. The first step toward reclaiming power is the recognition that thoughts are the unseen forces that shape reality. Every belief, whether conscious or subconscious, is a command that the universe obeys. When a person believes they are powerless, they send out vibrations of weakness, limitation, and scarcity, and the world responds in kind. Conversely, the individual who knows that authority, influence, and abundance flow from the mind will see that outer conditions bend the state of consciousness maintained within. Many people labor diligently, thinking that achievement comes from relentless effort, yet they fail to realize that true results arise from the alignment of thought and will. Powerless individuals accept the circumstances handed to them. They fight against life, struggle to control what is outside, and ignore the invisible currents that could carry them to success. They cling to external proof of competence, while the wise understand. And that proof is unnecessary when mastery of inner law has been achieved. The mind is the creative force, and the person who understands this need not compete, need not force, need not exhaust themselves. They speak, act, and command in alignment with the higher law, and circumstances bend, resources flow, and opportunities manifest with a simplicity that seems magical to those still trapped in the illusion of effort. To grasp this truth, one must first observe the habitual ways the mind operates. People frequently dwell on limitations, on what they lack, and on obstacles. Every thought of scarcity, every expectation of failure reinforces powerlessness. The mind, like a fertile field, produces in correspondence with what is sown. When one sows thoughts of inadequacy, fear, and dependence, one cannot reap authority, influence, or control over life circumstances. The law of subconscious attraction is impartial and absolute. It does not negotiate, it does not favor, it simply reproduces the inner state of the individual in the outer world. Therefore, to claim power, one must discipline the mind, replace limiting beliefs with affirmations of authority, and maintain a mental posture of sovereignty over circumstances. Consider how many intelligent, capable people remain subordinate in life, despite their abilities. They lack the inner understanding that thought, will, and expectation determine experience. They labor under bosses, systems, or social pressures, believing that obedience and effort alone secure reward. Yet every action taken from a place of weakness is insufficient to attract the full measure of life's power. Powerless people react. They respond to crises, they chase circumstances, they allow themselves to be led by events rather than guiding them. The master, on the other hand, acts from principle, from alignment, from authority that is invisible yet invincible. Every thought is chosen, every word spoken affirms strength, clarity, and control. Fear no longer directs action, for the master knows that inner power commands outer results. Authority is cultivated by the consistent practice of conscious thought, by the deliberate shaping of beliefs, and by the unwavering expectation of desired outcomes. When one maintains this discipline, outer forms bend, resistances dissolve, and opportunities appear where none existed before. This is the secret that distinguishes the powerless from the powerful. It is not education, not networks, not hard work alone. It is the mastery of inner law. Many seek shortcuts, thinking that power can be purchased, that influence can be assumed, or that wealth can be acquired by doing rather than being. Such attempts are invariably met with frustration, for the universe does not respond to pretension or superficial effort. It responds to genuine authority, which arises from the clear, faithful, and unwavering command of the mind. One must train oneself to think in terms of dominion rather than dependence, to speak in terms of command rather than supplication, to act in ways that reflect confidence and inner law rather than insecurity and reaction. When this inner mastery is established, outer results follow inevitably. The powerless may complain of obstacles, misfortune, or unfair circumstances, yet all outer resistance is a mirror of inner limitation. By changing the inner state, by affirming strength, wisdom, and rightful authority, the individual transforms every encounter, every circumstance, and every relationship into a reflection of that power. There is also a spiritual aspect to this mastery. True power is not forceful or aggressive. It is the calm, assured knowledge that the mind is the sovereign over circumstances. It does not coerce, it magnetizes. It does not struggle, it directs. The world, both seen and unseen, yields to such authority, and the individual moves with ease, precision, and confidence. Many seek control through manipulation, coercion, or excessive effort, not understanding that genuine power is effortless, arising from the alignment of thought, belief, and will. The difference is profound. The powerless push, pull, and plead. The powerful command, attract, and direct. To cultivate this mastery, one must first observe the habitual thoughts, the subconscious programming, and the underlying beliefs that perpetuate weakness. These must be replaced with affirmations of strength, with the consistent visualization of authority, and with the unwavering expectation of success. Every repetition of conscious thought reinforces the inner state, and the universe responds to that state with absolute precision. The powerless may continue to toil in vain, exhausting themselves with activity that produces little, while the person who has mastered the mind accomplishes more in moments than others do in years. The secret lies not in action alone, but in intelligent, inspired, and aligned action, guided by thought and faith. One cannot afford to underestimate the power of the mind, for it is the source from which all outer expression flows. Effort without thought, labor without vision, is powerless. The moment one begins to think and act as a sovereign, to maintain control over inner belief and expectation, outer circumstances bend, resistances fall, and opportunities appear. The universe mirrors mastery, and power becomes visible, tangible, and undeniable. Authority, influence, and success are not granted. They are claimed by those who recognize the supreme role of the mind. When one disciplines thought, affirms strength, and expects results, the impossible becomes possible, the distant becomes near, and the powerless are transformed into conduits of intelligent magnetic action that draws every desired result with ease and certainty. Inspired action is the secret that distinguishes those who struggle from those who prosper, those who remain powerless from those who wield influence effortlessly. Many labor endlessly, believing that constant effort is the path to wealth, yet they fail to see that action alone, unillumined by vision and clarity, is like a ship adrift without a rudder. The mind must guide the hand, the heart must guide the intention, and the soul must align with the greater flow of life. Inspired action arises when thought, desire, and faith converge, when the individual moves not from fear or compulsion, but from a clear understanding of law, principle, and the unseen currents that govern all things. The ordinary person works because they must. The person of inspired action works because they are guided, magnetized, and moved by the invisible intelligence that orchestrates success. This is why effort alone seldom produces extraordinary results. It is mechanical, reactive, and disconnected from the forces that govern opportunity. Inspired action, on the other hand, is effortless yet powerful. It draws to itself resources, people, and circumstances that would otherwise remain inaccessible. Every inspired step carries a momentum that multiplies results far beyond the visible effort. Consider how many have experienced moments of sudden insight, of knowing exactly what to say, where to go, or how to act, and in that moment, doors open, assistance arrives, and results manifest with a speed that defies ordinary expectation. This is the universe responding to inspired action, to the alignment of inner intention with outer execution. Those who do not understand this law often exhaust themselves with repetitive, unconscious work, unaware that the true power lies not in labor but in inspired movement. They chase results, follow routines, and exert energy in vain, while the inspired person accomplishes more in less time and with greater effect. One of the hallmarks of inspired action is clarity of purpose. The individual who knows what they desire, who visualizes it clearly, and who maintains unwavering faith in its manifestation naturally attracts the conditions necessary for its realization. Action becomes automatic, guided by the invisible intelligence that sees all possibilities and orchestrates outcomes with precision. There is no strain, no struggle, only the quiet certainty that every step is leading toward the desired result. Many fail to recognize the difference between activity and action. Activity is motion without direction, effort without alignment, a flurry that produces fatigue rather than fruit. Action, particularly inspired action, is motion directed by vision and faith, infused with the authority of thought, and magnetized by the expectancy of success. The universe responds to such action with favor, for it recognizes the alignment of intention and execution, and every opportunity is drawn into manifestation. The ordinary worker may labor long hours without seeing the fruit of their efforts because their action is disconnected from inner law. They work for external reward, for recognition, or from fear of lack, yet the law responds only to the state of consciousness, not desperation or compulsion. Those who understand this principle act from alignment, not from reaction. They move because they are guided, because they are inspired, and because they have cultivated the inner clarity that attracts the invisible forces of prosperity. Faith is the fuel of inspired action. Without faith, action becomes hesitant, uncertain, and weak. With faith, every step carries power, momentum, and authority. The individual who believes in the unlimited supply of life, who knows that they are a channel for abundance, acts decisively and confidently, and in doing so, invites the cooperation of circumstances, people, and resources. Many struggle to act because they doubt themselves, because they fear failure, or because they wait for conditions to appear perfect, yet the law operates independently of such hesitation. The moment one aligns thought, belief, and intention, the universe conspires to support the inspired step. Nothing is wasted, every effort is multiplied, every action carries the weight of invisible support. Inspired action also involves timing. The individual attuned to the currents of opportunity moves when the moment is right, guided by intuition, inner prompting, or sudden insight. They do not force results, nor do they act from anxiety or impatience. Their motion is measured, confident, and deliberate, yet spontaneous, for it flows from a source beyond ordinary reasoning. This is why some achieve in a few decisive actions what others cannot accomplish in years of toil. The difference lies in the quality of action, not the quantity. Alignment with law transforms ordinary effort into inspired movement. The world is full of individuals who exhaust themselves with meaningless activity, unaware that the source of results lies not in hard work, but in the intelligent application of inspired action. Even the smallest inspired step carries the potential for extraordinary outcomes, while the largest unaligned effort may yield nothing. The universe honors initiative taken with clarity, faith, and expectation. It responds to courage, decisiveness, and the quiet knowing that one is acting in harmony with the greater intelligence. Those who master this art learn to recognize opportunities as they appear, to act promptly, and to trust that support will follow. Every inspired action carries with it invisible momentum, unseen assistance, and a force that propels the individual forward effortlessly. One cannot underestimate the importance of inner state in determining the effectiveness of action. Action taken from fear, doubt, or confusion attracts confusion, resistance, and delay. Action taken from alignment, faith, and clarity attracts cooperation, ease, and acceleration. This is why inspired action is far more powerful than mere labor. It operates on a higher plane, where the laws of thought and law of attraction converge to produce tangible, visible results. Many have experienced the difference between struggling through an ordinary task and performing it with full presence, clarity, and inspired intention. The former drains energy and produces little, the latter energizes, multiplies effect, and opens new possibilities. To cultivate inspired action, one must first cultivate the mind and heart. Thoughts must be clear, intentions must be pure, and faith must be unwavering. One must release the habit of reactive motion and embrace the discipline of acting with guidance from the inner intelligence that knows the unseen patterns of life. Every day, circumstances will present opportunities for inspired movement, but one must be attentive, expectant, and ready to act. Hesitation, doubt, or distraction diminishes the power of the step. The universe responds to decisive, aligned motion, and when one consistently practices inspired action, life begins to flow with ease, opportunities multiply, and results manifest in ways that seem effortless yet are profound in their effect. Inspired action also frees the individual from fatigue and struggle. When one acts in harmony with law, energy is conserved, momentum is gained, and the process becomes self-sustaining. The ordinary worker may exhaust themselves with endless activity, Yet the person who has mastered inspired action accomplishes more with less effort and experiences a sense of ease, flow, and natural accomplishment that is unattainable through mere toil. This principle is the key to breaking free from poverty, powerlessness, and limitation. By learning to act from clarity, faith, and alignment, one becomes a magnet for opportunity, wealth, and influence. Circumstances bend, resistance dissolves, and even formidable obstacles yield to the power of inspired action. The law is impartial, yet precise, rewarding the quality of thought, the clarity of intention, and the decisiveness of the step. One may observe the difference in everyday life. Some individuals seem to accomplish everything with ease, while others struggle endlessly despite equal or greater effort. The difference is not luck, talent, or external conditions, but the mastery of inspired action. This is why the cultivation of inner vision, expectation, and faith is paramount. Action alone is insufficient. It must be the action that is guided, inspired, and magnetized by law. When this principle is applied consistently, ordinary work transforms into extraordinary achievement, struggle transforms into ease, and effort transforms into effortless momentum. The person who understands inspired action does not chase results. They align themselves with the flow of opportunity, act decisively when prompted, and trust that support will follow. In doing so, they operate from a place of authority, confidence, and magnetic influence that commands success naturally and inevitably.